good evening, everyone, and it's an honor to be here at Capital Invest, and thank you, BPI. Thank you so much for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to participate. And since BPI has supported us in our climate fund, Andromeda, I thought it would be interesting to talk about some of the issues that we're facing in the climate space, but more importantly, what us as European investors can do about it. And a good starting point is actually bringing this home to Spain, because we've faced two very difficult situations in the last few months. I'm sure you followed the news. So the first one is the Dana storm that we had in eastern Spain, where some places like Valencia or Murcia, they actually got more rain in 48 hours than in 6 months. So obviously, the costs were very, very high, over 1.3 billion euros in estimated cost, more than 200 lives lost, and obviously crops were lost, the infrastructures were destroyed, and businesses were closed. The second thing that happened to us very recently, only a few weeks ago, was the total massive energy blackout that we had in Spain. You guys cut the line, thankfully, in France, but it affected the whole of Spain and Portugal, and the households were in a complete blackout for more than 15 hours. So you can imagine what that was like. Obviously, again, very important figure in damages, more than 1.6 billion, and the economic disruption, the productivity loss, all the businesses that had to close, it was pretty tough. And the problem is that these situations, the grid instability or the floods that I mentioned, are not rare anymore. They're actually a normal thing. And it's not something that's abstract. It's right here, it's right now, and it's very, very expensive. So the question we're asking ourselves in Andromeda is not what we should do about it, but how we can build the systems to make Europe more resilient, right? Because if we don't act now and decisively, the costs are going to be very, very high. So, for example, the climate change estimation that Swiss Re has as a percentage of GDP, it's 18% by 2050, so that's a pretty big figure. And this is not an issue in developing countries. It's something that's hitting us very, very close to home in Southern Europe, especially because of the heat threats, the drought, and the very, very important water stress. And it's also obviously about Europe's resilience, because as we've seen with the war in Ukraine and the tensions in the Middle East, that's shown how vulnerable we are. So Europe's gas prices in 2023 were 4 times higher than in the US. The food inflation, as you all know, it's through the roof. And 6% of our workforce is tied to the automotive industry, under pressure from foreign EV and battery supply chains, especially from China. So while the US subsidizes the clean tech with the IRA Act, obviously everything that's happened in the US lately is kind of changing that scheme, but still 84% of that program has been committed already. So there's a lot of talk about the subsidies going away, etc., but 84% has been committed. And China is throwing a lot of opaque state support and, to the green manufacturing sector. In Europe, the risk is that we can be kind of in the middle or left behind. So after all this kind of negative data and obviously the more gloomy picture, here's where I come with the good news and what we can do as European investors, because we can really play a very significant role. And that's when you mix economic interests and climate interests, right? That's when the magic happens, and that's when things actually start changing. And we can see that things are moving in the right direction in many, many aspects. So first, I'll give you some data. Renewables generated more electricity than fossil fuels in the EU in 2023, and that's a first. Solar and wind together accounted for more than 44% of EU electricity, and that helped reduce, obviously, the gas import costs. And we've reduced the dependency on the Russian gas from 40% in 2021 to 11% in 2024. So that's a big improvement. We also lead the world in climate tech patents and scientific output. We have the talent because founders, and I'm sure you've seen it in most of our portfolios, are doing things that are very difficult, not that just the easy software solutions, but solving problems that are much more complicated. And obviously with the global geopolitical developments, especially in the US, we have an amazing opportunity to keep leading in the field. So climate tech is not only about decarbonization, we think it's about resilience, about sovereignty, and about industrial competitiveness. And that's our view in Seaya. Our view is that if we don't back these investors, we don't know who will, so it's up to Europe to do this. And it's not about ESG, it's not about the environment even, it's about building a resilient, sovereign, economically competitive Europe. That's what we're really focusing on, resilience. Rather than talking about climate or ESG, we are putting a strong focus on resilience. So yes, we think that we need to back these technologies, we need to scale them, and we need to support them. And that's what we're doing in Seaya Andromeda, the fund that BPA has backed alongside other investors like Iberdrola and Santander. So trying to solve the problems or trying to back the solutions, better put, that will help us in the next 30 years. Thank you very much.